to Common Ground, conversations exploring the stories and perspectives of people building the UK India corridor. My name is Lakshmi Kaul, and I'm bringing you the UK India series for Global Order. There are some people whose stories are bigger than titles, people whose journeys quietly reflect the tensions, hopes, and contradictions of the times we live in. At a time when conversations around democracy, nationalism, migration, and representation are becoming increasingly polarized across the world, voices that can bring nuance, humanity, and lived experience into the conversation matter more than ever before. Today, we'll talk about Britain, diaspora identity, Bangladesh, public service, and what it means to build bridges in these divided times. It is a privilege of mine to be able to welcome our special guest today, Councillor Imran Choudhary B.E.M. Imran Bhai, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me that busy. It's a nice afternoon, morning in London to actually have this interview. I'm so privileged, so honored, and so humble. Thank you.
Thank you. And you've just been to India recently and you've traveled around the length and breadth of India, enjoying the various places.
Yes,
What's that been like?
I mean, it was a journey of a lifetime, trust me. It was actually a very, very cherished ambition of my wife to visit India, to go to Taj Mahal, to go to Jaipur, to go to Delhi and see all the relics and monuments and everything, then go to Calcutta, which is something of my origin because both my parents were born and raised in Calcutta till 1946-47. Grandfather used to serve in the Grand Hotel till 1946 during the riots. And my father was in Calcutta, one of the schools, and they fled during the riots. And that was a tumultuous journey. It took them 24 days from Calcutta to come to Brahmanbaria in Bengal. So I just wanted to show my wife that this was the journey. And honestly, India has changed completely. I mean, the monumental growth of India and the prosperity, the communication, the ease of dealing with financial matters. Everybody, even the dukawala, the guy who's selling something in his kiosk can take online payment. It is unharmed. Funny enough, when you live abroad, when you are anywhere other than India, you get to hear a lot of bad mouthing, people unnecessarily without knowing anything. They will just throw a clandestine comment about India, about Modi, about the, what do you call the Bajpa, BJP and all that. But I'm a people's person. I talk to everyone. I can speak a little bit of Hindi. And also when I was in Calcutta, I was speaking in my mother tongue. I'm very inquisitive. I talk with a lot of people. Everybody is in synergy with the government and they want to see a prosperous India. Next door neighbor countries, we are grappling with, democracy, martial law, radicalization, infighting, and all of that, since 1972, when Bangladesh first government was formed, till today, no government but one. Only in 2006, when Sheikh Hasina was the prime minister, she relinquished the power honorably. Proper process of relinquishing the power took place. Another party won the election and took it over. But except that, since 1972 till 2024, none of the government has honorably relinquished power. It speaks volume.
Let me start with a memory of your home and childhood.
Well, I have a wealth of memory of my childhood, my boyhood. We grew up before 1971, the world was very small for us. And only the communication we perhaps had was radio, right? So the television was not spread all across the country, predominantly in the capital city. So Sunday afternoon, there was to be a Tagore, there's a natok at about 3:00, drama, radio drama. And invariably that would be one of the plays written by Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore is a huge, huge thing for our family and even in East Pakistan. I remember my mother reciting Tagore's poem all the time, especially Thai Nai, Choto E Tori, Amari Shonar Dhane Giache Pori. That's the Shonar Tori. the road, we had to evacuate our home, which is a place called Brahmanbaria, means it's a place for the Brahmins. So the Pakistan army suddenly attacked in both sides of the town, and there was a 45 minutes air raid by savages. Four savages bombarded the town, and we became homeless. And all we did is we poured into the shores of India and then lived in a refugee camp. And Tagore was our inspiration. Every single song, every single drama that we did ourselves in the refugee camp just to entertain, keep the morale up. And I was only 11 years old, and I joined the drama and the cultural troupe that we formed in the refugee camp. We used to be very close to Agartala, which is about 4 kilometers from the Agartala town. And there was a newspaper called Bangla Bani and Joy Bangla. Those two newspapers published by the freedom fighters. And I used to distribute those newspapers in the main town center of Agartala, where Akhaura Road means is a road that goes to Bangladesh, and another road goes to Sabroom and all the way down to the end of Tripura. Is the main town center, and there I used to distribute Aajke Taja Khobor, Aajke Taja Khobor, free of charge. And then I used to, from once used to finish the newspapers, we used to go to GB Hospital. There's a hospital in Agartala called GB Hospital. In that, we had a ward for the freedom fighters of Bangladesh called Joy Bangla Ward. So we used to go there, and we used to help the wounded prisoners, give them medicines, bring them water. If they have someone has a pain, we used to massage their body. If they're injured, somebody is amputated. So this was the memory. And also, I'm so indebted to India. If India did not give us the shelter, Lakshmiji, trust me, I would not have been alive today to speak to you. The biggest fight during the war of Bangladesh Liberation War happened where I was. It's called Akhaura. It's called Gangashagar. Gangashagar is the place where Albert, the gentleman who, the soldier of Aid Guard, if I'm not wrong, has received the highest gallantry award in Bangladesh Liberation War, which is literally 3.5 miles away from the refugee camp that we were living. And then the stretch of that Akhaura to Koshba, Shalda Nadi, is the biggest fight that Indian army had to encounter to dislodge the Pakistan army. So what I was saying, when we were distributing the newspaper from 6th of December, every day, hundreds of Indian soldiers were evacuated from those battlefields, and the ambulances, the trucks, the lorries, the buses, the civilian buses are requisitioned, the lorries are requisitioned, even the government jeeps and everything was requisitioned by the army. All they were doing was, Lakshmiji, believe my heart goes up, is to bring the wounded soldier, Indian Army soldiers, the blood gushing out of their chest, eyes gone, the hand is blown, the arm is blown, and they were just brought in, left on the floor till the time the evacuation takes place, and they're going back to pick up another one. The battle in Akhaura, battle in Gangashagar, the battle in Saldanadi. So I was just wondering, at that time when I saw myself, it's literally, I was standing 3 to 4 feet away when the soldiers were dropped for to be evacuated in a polo ground on the Agartala. That was the field hospital by the Indian Army, and it was all tented. So we used to walk past that to go to the GB hospital. And believe me or not, the amount of Indian Army soldiers, officers, NCOs, JCOs laid their life for Bangladesh. Bangladesh can never be able to repay that debt, honestly. It is a huge debt that we owe to India for the independence of Bangladesh. If anybody else is saying something else, he has to come and talk to me, because Imran Choudhary is an eyewitness. I was only 11 years old. And believe me or not, whenever I close my eyes, the 1971 is like a celluloid film of 35 millimeter film that goes from my left eye to the right, and I can see everything that I had to go through, the hunger. I mean, Indian Relief and Rehabilitation Department, or whosoever was running, I was too young to understand. They were God-sent messiahs. Believe me, we were so cantankerous. We are hungry. Everyone is suffering from scabies and skin diseases, eyes, infection in the eyes, hunger, no food, no bed. no time to go and have a shower, and the rations are delayed. There are hundreds of people in the queue, and the communication was so bad. The roads were all what do you call it? Clay roads, not proper roads. So the trucks used to get stuck. We had to go and push them. And the patience of those relief and rehabilitation people was out of this world. Had they not helped us, I would not have been here, because I don't remember 9 months of my stay in the 8 months of stay in the refugee camp. I never had a proper meal. My father is fighting in 140 kilometers away. My brother, 16-year-old, he joined the freedom fight. So in the house, myself, my mother, my sister, and two other siblings. I'm the main man at the age of 11. These five people are my responsibility. So I had to go in the morning, get bucket load of water from the water point, which was about 1,000 yards down in the under the hill. And then after that, if there is any food, I would eat something and go into the jungle and bring firewoods, because in the relief they give you food, rice and dal, but they don't give firewood. So where do you get firewood? And then the Bangladeshi refugees, the way we deforested the area, and there was never any repercussion or any kind of threat or any kind of aggressive words from the inhabitants of. So we owe them a great deal of gratitude. I mean, if someone who has not been in that shoes in 1971, they will never be able to express what we have gone through and how we were rehabilitated by the generous people of India. We owe our life to them. Trust me.
It's rare that you hear such an account. I have goosebumps already. And you've lived through, genocide, you've lived through the war, and you're here to tell that story today. You've survived it. You're also now a UK politician, of Bangladeshi heritage with so much love for India. So you connect, I've seen you connect beyond the borders of South Asia, across communities in the UK. How was that transition from the refugee camp? How did Northampton happen, and how did that transition work out, and how has life been? Today is a complete contrast, right? Today anybody sees Imran Choudhary, they can't tell that this is the boy from that refugee camp who was, almost starved, near death sort of experience. It's hard to picture that you'd have gone through this.
So once the war finished, sadly, my brother joined the freedom fight, and they were captured, 21 of them, and 11 of them in deep inside the country in Brahmanbaria, in one of the districts of Bangladesh, bordering the Tripura corridor. The Brahmanbaria was the main route of Bengali exodus to India in 1971. Okay, after Calcutta, this was the biggest, perhaps the one of the largest. So my brother's troop section, 11 people, I think, is all sketchy. They were captured in an ambush by the Pakistan army, and they were taken to Brahmanbaria jail, and they were tortured brutally, brutally. One of the eyewitnesses who was a renowned music producer in Bangladesh later on. So he survived, and I'm hearing from him. This is his witness story. So they were tortured to pulp. Honestly, they were just, I mean, my brother even couldn't stand up. So on the Eid day, when was the Eid? Ramzan Eid, and 21st of November, my brother and another 22 people were taken out of the torture cell, and they were brutally killed in Brahmanbaria on the bank of the river Tikas, and they were left there. So we did not know. We only came to know after the independence, when everybody started coming home. Dad came home, received us, took us back and we waited for our brother. He's not coming. So then, suspicions started to rise. So my father and I, we went around all the freedom fighter camps, and finally we found out that there was this happened in Brahmanbaria. So he was killed. Then what happened in January, Lakshmiji? In January 1972, he went to the village. There was a reception, and he told people that, listen, I don't have money, but can I request you one thing, that I would like to establish a school? Can I name it in the memory of my son? And then later on, he came back and he told me that, look, I have made this promise. I don't have the money. Can you help me? I said, tell you what to do. He said, after you finish school, this is a donation collection receipt book. Take it to the shops and your friends and families in the town and the city and ask that listen, we opened this school in my brother's name as a freedom fighter. Would you like to donate to me? That's how at the age of 12, I started fundraising and reaching out to people, talking to strangers. It's a huge job. It's a trepidation. You're confused what to say. So then I grew up, then I joined the scouts. I did all the social work. I organized cricket team. I organized what do you call youth clubs and joined the Bangladesh Army. I was commissioned in Bangladesh Army and I was doing very well. I was as a lieutenant. I did 3 courses, training courses, and all of them were brilliant. I topped one course. I got B pluses, which is what do you call it in UK standard? That would be 2A. Yeah. It's not first, but 2A. But in one, I got the first. So as a lieutenant in the history of Bangladesh Army, 55, 56 years, I'm the first lieutenant who ever been posted as an instructor in Army School of Education and Administration. So, and then things happened. I left, moved to UK. And what I found whilst I moved to UK is a huge problem with the diaspora communities. A, they don't speak English. B, they don't have the skill to get a proper job other than, run-of-the-mill restaurant jobs and other things. C, housing is a problem. Benefits is a problem. So immigration, my God, in the 1990s was such a big problem. So I used to go to Brick Lane, the epitome of Bangladeshi concentration. I used to live in London. So as I was always a little bit culturally inclined, so I used to go and buy Bangladeshi newspapers, poetry books, Bangladeshi literature books, novels and all. So I started associating with few people. So anybody I meet, and I speak almost all the colloquial languages of Bangladesh. District-wise, we have different colloquial accents, and I can speak most of them because due to my mother and father's job, my mother was in the customs and excise, my dad was in the East Pakistan Rifles. So I lived in 24 places in Bangladesh, and I went to 17 school and colleges and universities in Bangladesh. So, length and the breadth of the country I know, so I could speak every different accent. So thereby I started writing their letters, taking them to the job center. If someone has benefit problem, I'll go and, be the interpreter and all that. Then writing letter to the home office for the immigrations and all that. And if they needed to go to Bangladesh High Commission to get their passports and all that attested. I used to do the attestations, right? So this is how, and then there was a huge problem in 1996, 97, 98 was the homelessness, right? So a Bengali gentleman, I have so much of respect for him. He opened Families for Homeless campaign. So in Camden, I used to live in London at the time. In Camden, there was a center called Surma Center. So for the Bangladeshis. So I used to go there, volunteer, and take homeless people to the counts, Bangladeshi homeless people living in hotels and motels and various accommodations. So I used to arrange accommodation for them. So that's how I got involved with community affairs. But when I moved to Northampton, I was asked by friends that why didn't you become a councillor? So I started as a parish councillor of 2 parishes. I did it for 10, 15 years. And concurrently, I was in Northamptonshire Unitary Council. This is not your borough council. It's a little bit bigger than the borough council. So, but then May election, I was not interested to participate in the election, but my associate said, no, you need to. So I did, and we lost. It's gone to reform now. So, but concurrently, when, a lot of bad press was happening about terrorism, London bombing, 9/11, and 1/11, not 9/11, 9/11, and all of that. And a lot of people were pointing fingers to the Bengalis unnecessarily, right? And I stood up. I said, no. So I started doing Facebook. I started writing in the newspaper that the Bengalis are not radical. Bengalis are not, you cannot brainwash a Bengali like that because we have ethos, we have cultures. We are very poetic people, in our free time, we recite, Aji hote শতবর্ষ পরে কে বসে পড়েছ মোর কবিতা খানি. Tagore wrote this kobita before a century ago, envisaging that someone somewhere in the world will recite my poetry after a century. So we are like that. We like music. We are into folklore. We are into gossiping, reading, what do you call it in Bengali? Pothi. Pothi is something like a rhyming story. You tell a story in a rhyming way. It's a beautiful, very Bengali ethnic oriented reciting of stories. So then one day I was contacted by the Home Office and they said that Mr. Choudhary would like to talk to you. So they talked with me and they said, we would like you to join our campaign. There was Building Stronger Britain Together, BSBT. I don't know whether you remember it or not. So then they said, you have to form an organization. I said, what can I form? So I formed an organization, very pompous, name, Center for Policy Promotion and Prevention. And I was continuing with that. That is how I got introduced to you because of the seminars that we were doing. We were encouraging the diaspora communities to integrate together. In our seminars, we used to have Bangladeshi, Indian, Pakistani, Nepalese, and all that. So that is the gelling element that gelled us together. And then the COVID came. And I think COVID has been a huge impact in my life. I mean, I don't know, you observed it. You were in London. You saw it. I was out every day. I was feeding people. I was cooking meal for people. I imported a mask from Bangladesh. My friends and families are involved in textile. I gave free masks. And when there was a lot of skepticism within the diaspora, especially the Muslim communities, to uptake of the vaccination. So I wrote leaflets in Bengali, English, Urdu, Punjabi, Hindi, and distributed it. Now I serve Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, Indians, Somalians, Africans, Ugandanians, Nigerians. The whole influx of community that live in Northampton, even in London. I help them with the benefit. I help them with the health problem. I help them with the education, literacy, very importantly, IT literacy. And then I take out people for walking and running. I'm suffering myself with high blood pressure nowadays, but I take them out for a walk on a Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So in 3 different parks, I go and people join and we take them out. Even next Monday, I'm taking a group of elderly people to show them Birmingham, the old Birmingham, the tire factories, the brick fields and all that, because they have recollection of their friends and associates when they migrated in the 50s. They used to work on those factories. So I want to do a heritage tour. And that's how I got involved in it. Sweetie. I know I'm talking too long. You have to cut it short.
About diaspora communities, and you named so many different nationalities there that they don't ever exist in isolation. They all, whatever happens in their country, particularly, for South Asian diaspora, there's so much always happening. There is almost like an emotional travel that happens from their home countries to, the UK, whether it is political tensions, identity debates, whether it's questions of democracy, religion, nationalism. These are conversations that don't ever stay confined within borders anymore. They live inside communities in Britain, and we've seen so much of that has become part of language in the UK, sometimes misrepresented. But I want to know from you, are we witnessing almost like a generational shift in how young South Asians particularly engage with politics?
This is a different issue. I mean, they don't engage with politics. They're not at all interested. They're far from it. But you would be shocked the way the politics is. There's a saying, if Muhammad don't want to go to mountain, bring the mountain to Muhammad. Right? So what is happening is today's diaspora community, boys and girls, majority of them are very, very conscious. They are more into grabbing a career, very focused, and they're predominantly doing very well in the educational sector, as you can see, and you know. But there is an element of misinformation emanating from various vested quarters. And I suspect many of these youth are getting embroiled into it, getting brainwashed, or even if not believing, but they're listening to so many misinformation that can perpetuate in their mind to form a different negative or very antisocial mindset. That is happening.
I think it is because of all these divisions that we have. There's so much polarization. The reason why young people are not getting involved in politics is because it's just become harder for the minorities in recent years.
I beg to differ in a way that young people are predominantly not interested in politics. I think, I could be wrong, correct me if I am. I feel looking through the prism of my son, my daughter, they are very focused about their career. They're very focused to do well in their life. They're very focused to look after their parents when they're elder. They're very they were very family orientated. Secondly, they're very career minded. They want to flourish in their career. Thirdly, see, many of them has suffered in their childhood, boyhood, youthhood, financial difficulties. Right? No, it was not enough. We are being honest. Right? We both have to work to, you have seen us working. So I think our children are more focused to have a formidable financial strength. So that could be one reason. Secondly, I think the millennial kids are different. Those who are born after 2000, 1999, 2000, they're very different. And they don't want to get involved in politics or publishing. UK is drifting towards a right-wing political mindset. But I think especially the Asian, Bangladeshi, Pakistani, Indian origin people will always have a very prosperous political career in UK if they want to join, because they have the heft, they have the gravitas to go out and talk to people articulately. So if our boys and girls are enticed, communicated, a little bit motivated, they will they will do very well. And I'm sure they will join politics, but because of this situation, we're not having the best of time economically at this moment. People are short of change in their pockets. So, and the education system is really a little bit different than previous. So students there's not enough jobs. So there are hundreds of thousands of youth people who have done education, university, come out of university and finding it difficult to get jobs. So what happens is takes his focus away. Politics is the last thing that is them in their head at this moment. So there is, but the problem that the UK is facing is suddenly there is a rise of right wing, and that right wing perhaps will target the colored people. Maybe it looks like it. We will become unnecessarily maybe a victim of abuse, if not anything else. So, but then if you look at the yesterday was the election, and the ethnic diaspora communities, especially the greater Indian communities, Bharatvarsh, talking about, they have a lot of power. So I don't think, I'm talking about democracy-wise, voting powers and electing people. They can like Harrow, think about Hackney, think about Tarhemus, think about Birmingham, think about Manchester, think about Leicester. So these are the areas who will always have that cloud, and the right candidate comes on, and the right kind of youth join the politics and gives the right message, then he has a long look, Rishi. So there could be many more Rishis hiding in the society. All we need is just to propagate them and they will flourish.
And in the UK, politics is easy to pursue alongside any profession that you have. That's not seen as a conflict of interest. In fact, on the contrary, it is seen as public service, and that is encouraged. So it's easy to be in politics in the UK. Not many diasporic communities recognize that. And there is a reward for doing that public service for your local community.
Yeah.
So let's go to Bangladesh now. You've obviously seen so much change over the last few decades. Student activism has historically shaped Bangladesh. Do you see any change right now? Are we seeing another turning point in Bangladesh political history or, contemporary situation that we see now?
Yes and no. Thank you for the beautiful question. I have my own view. I may not subscribe to anybody else's analogy. I'm capable enough to make my own judgment without any prejudice. But I think Bangladesh might be heading a wrong way in the sense that the July so-called toppling of Sheikh Hasina it's not Sheikh Hasina. It's not toppling Sheikh Hasina. It's toppling the ethos, aspiration, the sacrifice, and the ocean of blood that we poured at the altar of the independence, right? They had a bone to pick with that. So it's a takeover by those who did not subscribe to our independence. Okay. This student, perhaps even very, very high ranking ex-officials of the army, Navy, Air Force, and also various civil servants have privately told that the government apparatus were infiltrated by those vested quarter. So now they toppled the government, but if you look at the aftermath, is they're not only toppling the government, they want to erase the history of 1971. They want to erase the tumultuous path the Bengali nation had to face since 1947 to 1971 to culminate into that genocide and then standing up against it with the help of India, making the country independence. They want to obliterate everything. Doesn't it say huge untold story, Lakshmiji? So that is dangerous. I mean, the rise of Middle Eastern so-called radical Islamization, Bangladesh is a breeding ground, right? No matter how much people want to water it down, they can't. There is evidence of it. So why do you demolish the house of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman? Why? You don't do that. This is a heritage thing. This is our history. Okay, he's controversial. Fine, you've toppled him, you've killed him. Right? Why do you have to remove his house, burn it into order, smash it into the ground? So that speaks volumes. Secondly, I suspect Bangladesh will fall into wrong hands. If we don't gravitate against it, it will fall into wrong hands. And there is an obsession of, that's why when I was a youth, 1977, 78, 79, I was touted by those who wanted to establish this. They came to me, they spoke to me, they tried to brainwash me. So I know how it happened. So that obsession can pose problem for Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya, West Bengal. Right. Secondly, you see, history repeats itself always. So, like I said, you have to, in order for one to envisage or augment a history of a country, they need to look at the ground, how stable the country is. I mean, look, the growth of Bangladesh is enormous. I'm telling you, it is the biggest highway of reaching the pinnacle of economic prosperity. But this is unsustainable. The population is unsustainable. For that small piece of land, so many people walking will create sinkhole. Just is one. Second, your nationalism or love for your nation cannot be divided so rapidly by different stream of nationalism. That cannot sustain. Secondly, why every time there's a problem, the country goes back to the military? I think I, as a Bangladeshi, I have the right because I have a stake in the birth of Bangladesh. My father fought, my brother laid his life, and I worked as a refugee in the Indian hospital of Agartala to treat the Mukti Bahinis. So I had a certain stake. And I also served in the Bangladesh Army. No, Bangladesh Army, serving the Bangladesh Army is not a joke because you have to have that courage to go. You could be dead anytime. So I'm saying is there's a lessons to be learned. Willy-nilly, everybody talking so clandestinely in speeches, in mahafils, in Islamic gatherings, in public meetings. There is no national perspective. I'm a historian. I read books. So the signs and symptoms of nationhood in the world, many nations perished. Centuries and centuries and centuries. Some naturally, some for other reasons, some for infighting, right? So in the recent past, look at the history, what happened. I mean, so I suspect if Bangladesh, if it cannot calibrate itself and make a consensus, national consensus of as to how the country ought to be governed by the people in power and the corruption, how can you minimize? Every country has some ethos, some perspectives, right? Look at UK. I mean, no matter what, their core values are very important. You can still walk in this country at 2 o'clock at night in the center of Oxford Street without any fear, right? So, but and the transitions of government, how the changeover takes. Honorably, people relinquish. You are not thrown out, right? I mean, imagine. I'm sorry, I'm not a supporter of any of the political parties, but it made me cry that how humiliating Sheikh Hasina was thrown out of the country. It made me cry, you know. So we are not citing a good example for our future descendants. Because if we continuously do this and oust and set a precedence that all the government has to be forcefully relinquished from their power, And that will embed into the ethos of the national perspective. So what are you producing in this country? Therefore, my view is Bangladesh is going to, as bad as it sounds, is not stable. It is not stable in the hands of the present incumbents. It will not be safe in the future incumbents till the time we really formulate a policy as to how we have 200 million people, largest population in the world. We need to have our perspective set, and Bangladesh can create problem for other places because we have such a porous borders. I mean, economy in Bangladesh is nearing collapse. Population is booming. We will not be able to house that many people. There will be no arable land. It will all be urbanized, and people are not thinking it seriously. I mean, we have the biggest garment factory, but we don't have the linkage factories as yet, and we are overpopulated. And there is no political stability. I mean, imagine I'm sorry to say this, why does Pakistan have to come so close to Bangladesh? They haven't even apologized for 1971. Why are we letting them become our friends? Why do you want to change our national anthem? These are signs of symptoms of collapse of regime country. This has happened in various places in the history since the dawn of history. So I don't know. I'm very worried. I'll be honest with you. It is not stable.
Do you think the changes in we've just had results come out from the West Bengal elections? The regime has changed after so many years. Do you think that might have any impact on how India interacts with Bangladesh now, or do you think it's going to get worse?
India, Bangladesh, no matter who is in power, we have to work hand in glove. Okay, this is very important. We are so intertwined with each other, right? But there are issues, there are problems. I think bear in mind the incumbent who were running for last 10, 12 years, as much as I would like to respect the honorable lady with due respect, she's like a Bengalis are very fond of their girls and daughters. We rose against the Pakistanis because they abused our sisters. Had they not done that, things would have been a lot less different. So we have a different respect for our sisters and mothers. I think every race has the same thing. But I'll be honest with you, she was very cantankerous, right? And to run a country or a state as vast as West Bengal, you need to be compromising, you need to be negotiable, you need to have the tenacity, you have to have the acumen to look at the bigger picture, international picture, collaboration, affiliation, association. I think she was lacking that.
If you're not in it, your voice is not heard, and therefore it doesn't matter. So, any people of Indian origin in the UK, you heard it, Asian origin, you must be in it to be able to state what your political views are and then to change the system. Politics is as good as the people in it. On that note, I will conclude today's conversation, which has given us a lot of food for thought. It's given us a lot to think about. There is aspiration. We talk about the trade agreements doing so much, volume of business. There's so much scope of growth and progress. And on the other hand, then you have all this geopolitical tensions between people, communities. There's so much division. I think it's so much there's a need to come together now more than ever, and that voice needs to emerge stronger than any divisive voices.
Thank you very much, Lakshmiji, for your time. I'm so honored, so humbled, and so delighted.
Thank you, Imranji. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best. I wish there were more people like you who would understand their personal history, their history. They would have that handle on civilizational, cultural history, literature, understanding of what people have gone through, what sacrifices have been made to make nations grow, and the role that people are playing today, or they ought to play in nation building. And so, more power and strength to you always. May your tribe grow, Imran Bhai. Thank you. This is it for today. We will be speaking to another interesting guest, a prominent voice from the UK India corridor at Common Ground, presented to you by me, Lakshmi Kaul, for Global Order. Stay tuned.